everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. We have another great crowd. Look at this. This is awesome, isn't it? And we even have a few regulars that aren't here. So if you look around, there's some different fuelings. People have brought in different stuff. At the end tonight, we're just going to give everybody an opportunity. If you brought something, maybe it's not your favorite fueling that you'd like to try to share with or trade with somebody else or something like that, you can see if anybody else brought something that you want. So we'll do that at the end. But we wanted to start off tonight with something a little bit different, and this is an idea that kind of came up while Terry and I were on the phone this last week. This was her idea, and I thought it was a fantastic idea. So I'm going to have Terry go ahead and come up and kick us off tonight.
Whoa!
Okay?
Whoa! I'm going on.
To the front of the class.
Go Terry. Okay, go Terry. Go Terry. See, this is community. Okay, that's what I'm going to start for. Anyhow, when we were chatting, I have learned so much in the last 7 weeks. That's all I have been involved with, me and Lynn, 7 weeks, since March 13th. And never would I have imagined the transformation for myself and for my husband, Lynn, and what this group has done for us. And having a coach. So, what is community, right?
It does.
And I thought the definition of community was appropriate here. And it says, a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Okay? Isn't that us?
That's us.
Absolutely.
And then, look at this. He knows what he's doing. He named his group Health and Hope. And underneath it, I don't know if you've ever really paid attention to it, it says a community of health-conscious people supporting one another on their journey toward optimal health and wellness. So, for me, March 13th, the transformation began. I didn't really know that I was that bad to live with.
Tell us, man.
Put it this way,
Leave that one alone.
the man's earned his wings. I had been trying to change my body composition. I had gone to the gym and been working out for 15 months straight. I tried to sit there and change everything I did in eating and doing clean eating. Nothing was happening, and that scale did not change at all. Who got depressed? I could be happy about other things in life, and I was. Always happy when the grandkids would come over. Always happy, when we were having family over to eat. I'm gonna be really happy when we open the pool, but I thought I was doing well, but really, I didn't realize I had gotten myself in such a depressed state over my weight. I have always been a smaller woman, and COVID and staying home and gaining 25 to 30 pounds really, really devastated me.
Quit smoking too.
Thank you, honey. So that was a big thing. Now it will be 3 years. And here, this young lady here, she quit smoking too. So, where am I going with this? All right.
Let's run ahead.
Then, when a coach calls you and you start talking and you start hearing yourself talk, sometimes you realize what a counseling session that really turned into, and that you are actually healing. You're using your words and you are finding out what your own roadblocks are. And I remember being on the phone with Milan and saying, I just gotta get myself out of the way. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but that's what it was, you know? So let go and let God. Well, the one beautiful thing about March 13th is coming in here and you folks always asking, how you doing? And so that feeling in this room with this group is very beneficial and it's contagious. And when Lynn and I left our first meeting, we were like, we want some of that. You know, and so our journey began. And we couldn't wait for Milan to sign us up, and we couldn't wait to start our program. And I'd have to say that also a bonus, which I said to Lynn, I said, I think it would be really good for us. Lynn, what do you think?
It worked.
So, in the future, about community and us, I think it's really important that we figure out something that's really, really valuable to each of us. You know, that, I know, look at that face. You're really, really pulling there, I can tell. You know, about.
Well, that's a good one. I had to think about that.
See, good. We need to think about that. I didn't realize I was so self-centered coming in here all the time, just looking around, until I sat back and realized, look at how kind and wonderful and giving this group has been. Genuinely caring about how we are doing. So we're here to support each other.
That's right.
So, with that, I'd like to pass the baton. Did you know I used to twirl? I was a national baton twirler, yeah. I did. So anyhow, who would like to sit there and share just a couple of lines about what this group or something favorable about your experience with Health and Hope and with Addictive? Any takers? You can stand. You can stand in front of the class.
All right, here I go.
All right.
Oh, Shelley.
Oh, boy. Here comes the honesty part. Oh, so, like, I have been in the program since it first started. January, we started this whole process, and me and my sister-in-law Patrice, as you know, we were ready for something new and really to kind of jump back into. As you mentioned, COVID wasn't kind to us, and there were so many other things that were happening that we didn't have any control of, and eating was one of them as well, because that's all you could do, eat, watch TV or whatever. So we started the program, and we just like right away like, woo, did great. We're like, oh yeah, this is good. Well then I had to travel a lot, and then when that happens, it's really hard for me because you know, it's not like I'm by myself and I can be loyal to the program and myself. I was putting other people's like feelings in front of mine because I didn't want the situation to be awkward. Like, I didn't want to draw attention. Believe this, okay, write this down. I didn't want to draw attention upon myself, you know, for something that I was personally working on. So I just kind of put it, okay, we're gonna have to take a back seat to the health program, and I'm gonna have to do the best I can. And I did, and it was okay. Well then, me and Treat had a heart-to-heart, and then my coach called because I hadn't even talked to my coach in a very long time. And I said, all right, no, I got to take this serious. So got back on, you know, really being loyal to the program and making sure that I was, you know, doing what was best for me. Even in weird events, I'd be like, no, I'm good. I already ate before I came. Or, you know, I'm not hungry right now, whatever I said to make people feel comfortable, not be like saying, oh boy, here she goes, or, you know, and hopefully by doing that, I think you said last week, well, just do it. Maybe I'll get somebody asking questions about the program or what you're doing or how is it making you feel. So back on track, I'm down probably 17 or 18 pounds from when I started, which I can really feel it because I was looking in the mirror today. I'm like, oh my God, well, you're still got a little bit of,
Oh, stop.
but I said, it's better than it was. And I'm like, man, you were really out of shape, girl. You let yourself go. And like you were saying, I didn't even realize it. I kind of did, but I just accepted it. And I don't think we should settle for anything less than the best. We owe it to ourselves first, and then our family and everybody else that works with us or whoever we have in our life. I think it's important that we take that step of faith into the program, and I think probably the key to the success for me is Milan and having him as a leader and a coach, because if I didn't come here and I had to do it online or didn't have you guys here as the community, I'd be like, it'd be over already. So thank you all, and I love you all, each and every one of you, and I love the program. We just got to keep on keeping on.
Yay, Shelley.
Your turn, Milan.
Milan, how you doing on time?
Is there anybody else? We've got a few more minutes if somebody else would like to share a victory or a win or anything like that.
Yeah, it's started this program. I knew, well, it started out though, Terry took a picture of me and I was holding my granddaughter. And she was gonna put it, I don't know, on Facebook or something like that. And I looked at the picture and my cheeks were hanging. I mean, they were down here, where I could just grab a handful of them. And it's just a coincidence it happened. I had talked to Rex, and he told me that him and Grace were starting this program. Well, I come home, when I was getting ready to tell Terry about it, Terry told me, he says, yeah, I talked to Milan. And so it was just, and it's weird how it just happened all at once. And so I definitely wanted to, I didn't know where to tie my shoes, I'd get winded. It wasn't healthy. And you feeling tired all the time, sitting there in my recliner, well, the bag of chips I just ate enough, hell, how about an ice cream?
That's right.
That's the way it was, because I'd go business for a living, and I was always active. Once I retired, and it does come on a lot easier than it goes off. But, so we got on it, we started, we knew we wanted to do it, and, I was really optimistic about, I didn't want to eat something that tasted horrible, I didn't want to do this, so I said, okay, I want to listen. And I come in and listen to what you had to say, and Rex gave me a sample of something that, that he had, and I thought, well, this ain't bad. So I was, after the first time coming here, we were sold on it. And then seeing other people around that's also, it's like other meeting tables I sat around, that everybody's there for the same thing. We're there to be healthy, lose some weight, and right now, it's been 40 days, and I've actually dropped 32 pounds. I didn't set my goals. I told Terry I hit 200 pounds. She said, well, you can go lower. Well, I'm not going to set myself up for failure. Let's see where we're at. I hit 200, and I got a few pounds to go yet. But and I was really happy that my whole mindset got turned around, because I was looking at something horrible, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this. It's hell, that's part of my language. That tastes like shit. I ain't eating it. I ain't going to be able to do this. But it wasn't like that at all. It was, it was learning of all the years that I was abusing my body with all this. That okay, you got to eat this, then eat this, then eat this, and the health part of it is great. Just falling into it. But anyway, thank everybody here.
Well, you guys, thanks so much for sharing, Tracy. I really appreciate you. Kind of, it's when we do talk about our common goals and the things that are happening and the good things. And also, I mean, there's times to talk about the challenges too. So it's not just all about, the fun stuff. But that's the beautiful part of community. And if you were ever at LifeBridge when I was preaching, you knew that community is a very important part of everything that we do because God created us in His image, and relationship is important. And so when we do this health journey, if we look at it from just one angle or just as one part of who we are, then we miss out on everything else. And so that's one of the things I really loved about Terry's idea. She said, why don't we get everybody talking and the community piece of it really going? And that's so important because this journey is not a single facet. It's not just about being disciplined in what we eat. There is so much more to it. We're going to talk about mindset tonight. Mindset is a huge part of the dealing with addictive foods and things like that. And so hopefully tonight will be very, very helpful for you. Again, a lot of this is going to be especially helpful when you get done with plan, if you're on plan. But I think it's important for us to get our mindset in order and begin to really understand what's happening. And also, I want to say this too. I want to take just a moment to talk about the importance of helping one another. I did talk to one person this week who'd been on a plateau, and they hadn't lost weight for quite some time. And then all of a sudden, over the course of just the last week or so, anybody need to know? Just over the course of the last week or 10 days, this person has lost 5 pounds. And they also made the mental note that it was when they started helping someone else. It was almost like Terry, you said, you got focused on yourself and kind of depressed and frustrated and all of those things. And this person said when she started focusing on and helping somebody else, it was like it released something in her. So that's just a powerful testimony about the fact that we are spiritual beings and that we are called to be in community, to help one another and to be a part of a bigger picture together. So let's go on and let's talk about dealing with addictive foods. We know a lot about addiction. Oftentimes we think of addiction primarily in the sphere of drugs and alcohol and things like that, maybe pornography, other things, where there is an appeal, there's something in us for what we're appealing after something, and then it gets a hold of us. The thing that we had gotten a hold of gets a hold of us, right? And what we oftentimes don't equate is that food has that power over us as well. You'll especially find out as you get into program, any program, it's not even this program necessarily, but any program, you'll find that there are times when you want something and your program says, I'm supposed to do this, and you find yourself with an almost irresistible desire to do that thing. That's when you know that addiction is playing a role in what we're doing. So the mindset dealing with this is super, super important. So we're going to go through this stuff tonight. I think the first thing and we're all aware of this, is that these addictive foods are everywhere. Everywhere. We've been talking about this, the fact that really things have changed a lot over the last 100 years, 200 years. It used to be that in order to get something like one of these addictive foods, it was a rare occasion, right? It was something that was highly priced. It was something that wasn't very available. It was something you really had to go out of your way, and it might have been you might get a dessert kind of a thing just on a special, very special date night or something like that. But now these things are everywhere and all the time, right? Processed sugar, flour, sodium, MSG, all of these kinds of things are everywhere we look. And they're easily in our pantry and in our freezer and our refrigerator and all of those things. So I wanted to ask you, let's get some ideas from some of you guys, just to kind of get the conversation going. What is your kryptonite? Maybe it's up on the screen, maybe it's something that's not on the screen. What are some of those foods that we just have a hard time putting down, a hard time not picking up, a hard time getting beyond?
French fries.
French fries, yeah.
Pizza.
Yeah.
You know what? Pizza was a big one for me, and my family still orders pizza on Tuesday night or on Wednesday nights. Pizza, yeah, that was a hard one for me. Yep.
Can't you have one
Coca-Cola. What's that?
piece? Can't you have one piece?
Well, That's the problem, can you?
There's a
When it's
lean and green pizza.
There is a
Yeah,
lean and green
I'll tell
pizza,
you.
and one of these days I'm gonna bring it, but it looks like more work than I wanna do for this many
It does.
people.
I looked at it too.
I have to kind of choose some recipes that are a little bit easier to make in large quantities.
Pasta.
Pasta? Pasta's your big one?
Oh,
That's your
Chocolate, potato chips, and ice.
chocolate?
Yeah.
Ice.
I'm sorry, what was some of the other ones?
Potato chips.
Potato chips, yeah.
How about chocolate cake? Desserts. Yeah.
Let's just say cake.
Yeah, there you go.
My mom makes some like killer cakes. Drives me nuts. I love them. That's the problem. And usually when she, like if it's my birthday or something and she makes one and brings it over, I say, please take that. And she never does. So I end up eating it. I mean, it's just, seriously, that's what
Not
happens,
now.
right? What else?
I like snack crackers, like,
Snack crackers?
Cheesy, like,
Wheat thins,
yeah, wheat thins.
tomato
biscuits.
basil wheat.
Yeah, you know, those are, some of those things are not the things that we would like really go out of our way to get, but they're in the cupboard.
Yeah.
And it's late at night, we're watching TV, and I want a little bit of something, and you find those, and you pretty much bring the whole box into the living room, and then pretty soon you find out you've eaten half the box, and you
And you're
didn't
like,
mean
it's
to.
better than potato chips.
Right.
Not really.
Yeah, no, from a health standpoint, not really.
Ice cream.
Ice cream, yeah, that's a biggie.
Mine is popcorn with extra butter.
Ultimate butter.
With double dipped chocolate peanuts.
You're killing us.
Double dipped chocolate peanuts mixed in.
I'm wondering how far I should let this go before
I
it's
know.
out.
We could go on forever,
I think we've got the idea, right? And I don't know, maybe I should hide that sheet.
Stop those buttons, you know? You're igniting me.
So a couple of things. Last night, actually, Jen made the Red Lobster biscuits, right? The homemade version. Are every bit as good, and since they're right out of the oven, they're better. I had 2 of them. I'm confessing, I had 2 of them. I had intended to have 1, but the whole addictive, and so this morning when I was talking to the boys and Jen about what I was talking about tonight, they said, don't forget the Red Lobster biscuits. And I was like, oh my gosh, I gave in just last night, because that's what happens, right? They're sitting there on the table, the pan of them is on the table. I had 1, I was good with just 1, and then I was like, but they're right there. And they're looking at me. And I can hear them calling my name, right? That's right. I won't hurt you, I love you, right? I mean, that's what I feel like they're saying. I've noticed this at different times with Doritos. I can't just have 3 or 4, right? Once you start, man, you gotta keep going. So there's a difference between foods that we crave and the foods that we want, and foods that literally have that ability. Once we start, our ability to stop really slides quickly, right? And those are the kinds of things that we have to become very, very aware of. And we also have to understand, and we've said this so many times, it's not our fault. The food companies are literally, they're not dumb. They know what they're doing. They know what to put in those things, how to present them, where to place them, how to price them. I mean, they know the whole deal to suck us in and then to take advantage of what they know about human nature. And that is the fact that we have this propensity towards addiction. When we indulge in something that meets certain criteria, right? We're surrounded by advertising, pictures, videos, billboards, all kinds of things all day. Unfortunately, all night. Watch nighttime TV, that stuff's gonna come on, right? And here are the problems that make it difficult for us to resist. First of all, they're, like I said earlier, very, very accessible. These kinds of foods did not used to be this kind of accessible. Used to really have to go out of your way. And have you ever noticed that these are the kinds of things that they place right next to the register at the grocery line? Because that's where you stand for a couple of minutes. And you're already thinking about food. And oh, I haven't had those in a while. I haven't had that in a while. Right? So you got to recognize how they're making it available. They're also cheap. These are the cheapest things. As a matter of fact, a lot of times when people are thinking about program, they begin to look at the cost of program, and they go, oh, I can't afford that. I eat on way less than that a month. Well, what are you eating? I mean, what are you putting into your body? And does that have the kind of value that you need, or is it leading to and producing the very thing that we need to get away from, right? It's cheap. Those foods are cheap because the processes that they use. I'm a little concerned. I forgot to bring my power cord. I hope my battery's going to last tonight. We'll see. They're also culturally acceptable. That's one of the problems, right? Everybody's good with it. Everybody's okay with it. We've been desensitized to the dangers because everybody does it. Everybody does it. Can't be that bad, right? Some of you guys mentioned smoking tonight. When you were growing up, my hunch is that your friends smoked. They look fine to me. As a matter of fact, they seem kind of happy about it. I'm going to jump in too.
I was a good smoker.
Yeah, that's right. And how many different things in life do we do because everybody's doing it and everybody looks like they're having fun. And then also,
TV.
that's right. And right, the coolest people on TV are doing it, right?
Right.
And then, as I mentioned, the food companies intentionally target us. They understand our psychological weaknesses, and they know how to get us. And I'm not trying to make them out to be bad people, but it's true. They're in the business to make money, and they know how to do that. And so what it comes down to is when we're stressed, we're bored, we're depressed, a sugar fix can make us feel better in a moment. And that's the voice in our head when we're standing in line at the grocery store, or when we're sitting there watching TV and we have a little bit of a craving, or we're struggling, we're stressed out, we're frustrated with something going on in life. We just want to feel better. And we do know that food can make us feel better just like that, right? And because it's socially acceptable and it's food, after all, it's food, that can't be that bad, right? Then we have a tendency to give into that because it promises to infuse just a moment of pleasure for us. Dr. Anderson says the habits of disease can create instantaneous pleasure, right? We've got to be aware of that's really what the draw is. That's the thing that grabs our attention. But they will ultimately result in significant consequences to our health and well-being. And that's why we gather together. If any of you have ever been to an AA meeting, you know that we need people around us who understand what we've been through, what we're going through, where we need to go, people that can hold us accountable, people that can walk the journey with us and walk in a way that helps us, encourages us, right? So the problem is the pattern gets repeated over and over. We start with just the desire to please ourselves, to have that fix, to feel good in the moment. But because of accessibility, because of how cheap it is, we have a tendency to do that from once a week to twice a week, to 4 times a week, to every day of the week, to 2 times a day, and then it becomes every time we go to the refrigerator or the cupboard or whatever, what are we looking for? Whatever is going to give me that little fix right now, whatever's going to make me feel good in the moment. And that's when it really begins to roll like an addiction, okay? And just like drugs or alcohol, nobody gets up, especially as young people, and says, I'd really like to be an addict one day. Nobody wants that. Nobody pursues that. But how many of us end up sliding into that? We've got to look at the psyche behind it and what can we do to deal with that. All right? So in my opinion, I believe that we should actually deal with these foods and these issues with the same kind of concern as we do things like cocaine and heroin. Is that a little overboard? Is that a little radical, Milan? I don't know. We're going to talk a little bit about how the two, those kinds of drugs, psychedelic drugs, actually affect our brains very similarly to these addictive foods. We'll get to that in just a little bit. So, a lot of times too, we comfort ourselves with the idea that I can quit anytime I want. But the truth is that most of us are here because we couldn't quit anytime we wanted. We needed a community, and we needed a plan and a program, and we needed a tool, and we needed a coach, and we needed to come together because it takes a little bit more than just the willpower that we have. So let's take a look at some problems, some of the dangers of these addictive foods that leads to this. The first one is this: insatiable hunger. The word insatiable is kind of the key here. Insatiable means impossible to satisfy. If you've ever had Oreos, you know that you will never completely satisfy your desire for Oreos. The desire will always be there. Now, you may get to the end in one sitting, but at the end of the day, these kind of addictive foods, they create a desire that's just always there. If you've ever noticed these things, Little Debbie zebra cakes. I started my Little Debbie zebra cake addiction in high school. I think, Mom, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Mom and Dad would give me money to go to school, to buy lunch every day. And I bought zebra cakes every day. Yeah, and so I would have a zebra cake, and I can't remember what else I had. And this was back when I was lifting weights, and in a lot of ways, I was really healthy. Zebra cakes was just my thing. I mean, that was my drug of choice, apparently. And so I still have this insatiable desire for zebra cakes, and if I ever come across one, the urge to say no is pretty difficult. But anyway, here's how it works. Leptin is the hunger suppressant hormone released by our fat cells that tells our brain that we're not hungry anymore. So when we're eating, and when we get full, there's something inside of us. It's this leptin that says, okay, we're full, we're good to go, all right? But when we're tempted by, close to, in proximity to these addictive kinds of foods, right, it doesn't work the same. Researchers have found that as the insulin rises in response to eating sugar and flour and refined food, it blocks leptin, and it is no longer capable of suppressing the hunger. In studies, mice were fed high glycemic foods, and as insulin rose in their blood, the mice began eating continually and stopped moving. That sounds like Saturday afternoon on the couch, or 8 o'clock at night on the couch, right? I'm not moving much, and I've settled in with a box of crackers or something addictive, right? And so there's more going on than just, I don't have much willpower. It literally is internal, it's physiological, it's chemical, and it's important for us to understand these things, that where leptin should step in and say, hey bro, you've had enough. Put the zebra cakes down, right? It doesn't, because the insulin has gone up and is now blocking the leptin's ability to tell the rest of my body it's time to stop. That's why we have a tendency to binge eat when we get a hold of something, right? There's been so many times I've had we have these little bowls. I get a little bowl with a couple scoops of ice cream, right? Because I want to be good and I just want to eat just a little bit, right? But then that little bowl is gone and I'm like, that didn't even touch what I desired, right? So I go out and get another little bowl. And then a little bit later, another little bowl. And there have been times, not since I've been on program, but in my past, where I was like, throw the bowl on the counter, just bring the tub into the, right? Just bring the whole thing into the living room and let's just go to town. Let's get her done, right? Why mess around?
Don't leave it half gone,
Yeah, why would you do that? And after you've put the spoon in there several times, nobody else is going to want to eat it anyway. So, right. We come up with ways to justify it, but that addictive thing kicks in. And we have to be aware that the addictive foods literally flip the metabolic switch, and they turn on that insatiable kind of desire, okay? So again, be aware of this, and don't let it get away from you, okay? Problem number 2. Cravings and addictions. The second problem with refined sugar and flour is that they light up the brain just like cocaine and heroin. When subjects are placed in MRI machines designed to show areas of the brain that are activated after consuming sugar or refined flour, the subject's pleasure and reward center lights up like a firework display. That hyperactive area of the brain releases large amounts of dopamine, which creates a pleasurable feeling and leads to the desire for more. This is actually MRI, and I didn't necessarily believe it. By the way, I'm a skeptic, even about my own program. So I went online and I confirmed that these studies were done, I think it was in 2004 or 2006, something like that. These are 2 brain scans of 2 different individuals, one right after they had been introduced to high sugar and refined carbohydrates, and then the other one on cocaine. Now, there are other factors involved. It is not the exact same thing. However, the dopamine response and the body's desire for more based on that are very, very similar, and that's another reason why these foods are addictive. Okay? Part of the problem with the food addiction is that there isn't a social shame that goes along with that accompanies drugs, and we can even justify it. We can say it's just food, it can't be that bad. And so when we have that similar reaction, we may not have some of the things that would normally in other areas of our life cause us to put it down and say, I'm going to make a change here. Lay's potato chips, you can't eat just one. Do you think maybe they had a plan behind that, or do you think they just discovered it one day and went, oh, you can't just stop at one, what do you know? No, there's a plan. There's a plan behind that, right? Used to be you could eat a few M&Ms, then it was a couple of handfuls of M&Ms,
It's the shareable pack.
and now it's the shareable bag. That's right, the share size, the one that you should
They don't come
share.
resealable.
share.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, number 3, we have to recognize that there's a susceptibility to refined sugar and flour, similar to the certain susceptibility that individuals have toward other addictive things. Some of you come from families, or you've known people that have come from families that have a very addictive nature, have an addictive past, and it's like, I don't even want to touch that stuff because I've seen what it's done in the past, and I probably am predisposed to it. Because refined, ultra-processed food lights up the pleasure centers of our brain, there's a degree of risk to all of us in this obesogenic world of processed food, but it is clear that some of us are at a much higher risk than others of being drawn into the dark web of sugar and refined flour addiction. Once again, life ain't fair, is it? And we know that some people are more susceptible. And we have to be aware of that. We have to be careful of that. So another study, in one study, rats were exposed to a lever that they could push before a highly sugary food was released into the trough. A third of the rats loved the lever and would continually hit it even before the food was released. They would just, they'd hit that lever, man, I gotta have it, I want more of it. The moderately susceptible group, these rats would come to the lever sometimes, and sometimes they would not. They knew it was there, sometimes they'd come. The other rats, they didn't even go over to the trough until the food actually showed up. So it showed that there are some that were just naturally driven to go and to go after it. And in the same way, some people have a higher susceptibility to that impulsiveness, right? You're standing in the grocery line and you just can't say no. Earlier today, I was at Meijer. I have to say that, and I walked by the cookie. That right now they have they have a whole bunch of the cookies with the frosting on them, and your big pan cookie, kinds of things. And I saw a lady go like this, and I mean, it just stopped her in her tracks, and she stood there and stared at them. And I just said a prayer for her. That's all I could do. It was nobody I knew. So anyway, don't think I'm gonna get anybody in trouble.
Was it me?
That's funny.
Hey, Milan, if that's me,
I knew
please
that we
say,
could
is that
fool
on
you.
plan?
Yeah,
Just
right.
easy pie, is that on plan?
So do I have permission to ask everybody if it's on plan if I
Please
see
do.
you in the grocery?
Please
No,
do.
I'm kidding. Every once in a while. Every once.
Only to say, hey, Chubby.
Chubby, get away from
Now, if I see you in the grocery store, please don't, like the other aisle over. Right? If your cart's full of stuff, I'm not gonna judge. All right. All
I was
right.
just moving it, eh, Michael?
Yeah.
Milan, I'm like a ship shopper.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. If you see Tracy with a whole cart full of stuff that she
Cookies
shouldn't
and
be
whiskey,
having,
it's not mine. I
it's her
promise.
job. All right. Okay. So, so just like these rats, humans also fall into one of the 3 general groups. Understanding and being aware of your level of risk allows you to be the most vigilant in your plan against addictive foods. Now, one of the things that is really good about the program is that the program is a very strict plan. You know what's on and what's off. And a lot of people, being on the plan is super helpful for that reason alone, right? It is a little bit easier to say no when you've said, no, I'm not, I can only eat these things, right? There's a list of them right here, the fuelings, and it's the stuff on my lean and green. And so sometimes that helps, especially if you've actually gone through your house and you remove the stuff. That can really help out. So I know for some people, getting to the end of their program is scary. Because they're like, okay, but if I get back into that no man's land where I gotta choose all my meals and and that highlights again the importance of the mindset change. We've got to be willing to embrace a change in our mindset while we're on the program, going through, learning the principles of the life book, doing what you're doing here tonight. You guys are ahead of the game. Because when we get to that place, we do have to have a new plan. It's not the 5-in-1 plan, but we want to help you establish a new plan that can keep you on track and keep you from getting sucked into your old addictions, okay? All right. So in the book, they do this little quiz, and we're going to go ahead and go through this. And if you have a piece of paper, you can follow along. Maybe you want to just do this later. You can kind of just, as a matter of fact, I would encourage you to do this on your own in your life book later.
322 in the book.
What is it?
Page 322 in the book.
322. Okay, can you guys believe we're on 322 already? We've been rocking, man. This is good stuff. Okay, so here's kind of how it goes, and you can follow along here and do this with us right now, or you can just do it later. But this will help you to kind of get some ideas. What this is, it's 10 questions, and what you want to do is you want to rate yourself, and this is going to help you score yourself later as to your level of susceptibility to addictive foods. All right, number 1, I find it difficult to control how much I eat. Rarely, occasionally, or daily. Number 2, I crash in the afternoon and have trouble waking up in the morning. In other words, you've got that sugar or that insulin, the insulin fog. That's a good way to put it. I crash in the rarely, occasionally, or daily. Number 3, I have cravings for specific foods. You could name them right now. Right? Rarely, occasionally, or daily. Number 4, I suffer from moodiness, headaches, or fogginess. Rarely, occasionally, or daily. When I only eat a moderate amount of food, I am not satisfied. Rarely, occasionally, or daily. I feel guilty after eating. Rarely, occasionally, or daily. I spend a considerable amount of time thinking about food. Rarely, occasionally, or daily. Number 8, I eat even if I am not hungry because I crave a food. Rarely, occasionally, or daily. Number 9, I eat large amounts of food and feel powerless to stop. Binge eating. Rarely, occasionally, or daily. And number 10, I crave carbohydrates like pasta, bread, white rice, or desserts. Rarely, occasionally, or daily. Now, these are specific questions that highlight specific areas of the addictive response, the trigger areas, right? And so at the end of this, you can look at that, and you are at a low susceptibility if it's more than 6 rarelies, moderate susceptibility if it's more than 6 occasionally, or high susceptibility if it's more than 6 daily. Okay, so that may be just helpful for you to know. And again, it's kind of like an alcoholic who's pretty much saying, I'm fine, I can quit anytime I want, and I got this, and I don't drink that much, I don't drink near as much as so-and-so. And we justify, but part of the importance of this particular chapter is to look at these indicators to help you to look at yourself accurately and realize, you know what, I've got some susceptibilities in this area, and I really better lean into the mindset shift, the different changes, and the ways that the life book and this system help us to deal with these issues. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up with just some bullet point kind of things to keep in mind, right? Actually, let me just wrap up with this. An addict has to come to terms with his or her issues, whatever they are. And again, we know that there are many different types of addictions that we can fall into. They have to recognize the power of that thing over them and respect that power. I think a lot of times we really don't respect the power of food in our lives, and maybe that's why we kind of look at it as if it doesn't really have any power over us, and then it does. And so we have to recognize and avoid our triggers. People, places, and things that trigger our cravings. Just like an alcoholic can't go and just hang out at the bar. They have to make some decisions. They respect the power of that particular addiction in their lives, and they say, I can't get near it. I can't allow it to have a place in my life. So, remember, a combination of genetics and environment determine your susceptibility. So be aware, becoming awakened to our susceptibility factors is really important. That's going to help us to sober up, to think soberly about our issues with food, okay? Engage the mental work involved with this program. I've already mentioned that several times. I listened to one person who was sharing their story, and they said that when they went through program, they treated it like a diet. They treated it like a program. Yeah, I just do the food and I do the things, but they really didn't engage the mental work. And so they found themselves later on in the program, still on program, really struggling with things, and it was all mental. The beautiful thing about this whole deal is that it recognizes that. We are not about selling a product, we're about leading people on a journey. So be prepared to do the mental work. The other thing is read the labels to protect yourself from all the ways the food industry tries to disguise these addictive elements. You can become aware of some of the things, MSG, sugar, all of these processed carbohydrates, things like high fructose corn syrup, things like that. Once you begin to identify those in the labels, you can say, oh wow, now I know why this food had the power over me that it did. And we can be aware of the things that we really just need to stay away from, okay? Be aware of and avoid stimulating that hormonal metabolic switch that stimulates the insulin and blocks the leptin. And that goes into the things that we've been talking about regularly fueling with low glycemic foods. Now, does that mean we can never have higher glycemic foods again? No, it's not. That's not it at all. But I think there's a big difference between living on high glycemic foods and visiting that camp rarely. Like I've said, now that I'm in maintenance, I treat myself to one pleasure meal a week. And even at that, I limit. We went to Sherman's, I think it was opening day or their second day. And I got a baby scoop and I didn't even eat the whole thing. And I was just like, I don't need it. So I determined what I was willing to eat, and I decided ahead of time what I was going to do, and I didn't go beyond that. So, what's that?
Do they have sugar-free ice cream there?
I think they have. I think just a mint chocolate chips, sugar-free. I think maybe one or two.
What do you think about that? A sugar-free.
Yeah, after you're
I'm not
on program, you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But after program, I think
On maintenance.
making those kinds of choices are really important. Now again, you also have to remember we're on a journey to ultimate health, and we do know that the artificial sweeteners are not healthy for us either.
Right.
So some people are like going, man, I just down like 5 Diet Cokes a day, and and they eat all kinds of, and that's not good either. So don't justify satisfying that craving with artificial stuff on a regular basis either.
Good.
Okay. Again, the Stop, Challenge, and Choose is a process that Dr. A teaches that we think is a good thing to really begin to learn and engage. It's that rather than just kind of cruising through life and just kind of doing what comes naturally, it means being much more aware, stopping when we feel triggered or when we know that we're being confronted with these things, challenging the options that we have and the things that we're thinking about those options, and then making a choice that's going to lead us toward our goals and keep us from slipping off the road. And then the last part is engaging the 4 components. And Terry, I thought what you did at the beginning was fantastic. It was you talked about the different components of this program and how important each one of them is. That coming together as a community is vital. It's very important. The coaching piece, being able to engage with your coach and trust their leadership and allow them to help you. Being willing to get into the habits of health system, that's the mental work, And then, of course, sticking with the plan, the actual nutrition plan, because it is designed to help you be very successful. Okay? There was one other recommendation, Dr. A's Habits of Health. Normally, I'm referring you guys to the Life book, but the Habits of Health book is, man, it's just like the next level. It really has some powerful stuff in there. And actually the book starts out talking about these kinds of things. So section 1.1 talks about this whole idea, it's not your fault, which again, we've talked about, we know the principle, but he goes into more detail about what to look for and how to avoid these kinds of things based on the environment around us. Well, tonight's been a fun night, you guys. Thank you so much for engaging the way that you have, and we want to continue to make Health and Hope something that's engaging and fun. And I always want it to be light and enjoyable, but at the same time, I want people to be able to walk away with good, solid information and help and support and all of that. So let's keep it up, right?
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys again next week. All right?